still. We laugh, we learn, we go too deep. Sometimes the tea's too hot to keep, but we're here, no shame, just chill. Grab a snack, let's talk what's real. Welcome to the Feel and Spill, where the combo's hot and the vibe is real. We fill your plate and spill the tea with honesty, heart, and a little therapy. Yeah, come hang for a while. It's all love, all laughs, all style. This Feel and Spill.
Welcome back to the Fill and Spill podcast. I'm your host. I'm that Beth.
And I'm OG.
And today we have a very, very special guest who I'd like to invite here with us. And this is Kelly.
Hello. Hi, Kelly.
Hello. Thanks for having me.
Welcome, welcome.
Absolutely. And today we're going to do a very special episode. We're going to talk about Bereavement Day for mothers. Kelly, would you like to kind of introduce yourself?
Sure. So my name is Kelly Smedley. I am a board certified psychiatric clinical nurse specialist, as well as I am certified in perinatal mental health. So that's my professional background. I'm the founder and CEO of a large group practice that focuses on maternal mental health. It's called Waypoint Counseling and Maternal Wellness, and we see clients throughout the state of North Carolina. But personally, I have experienced my own loss, and Bereaved Mother's Day is really important to acknowledge the many women who have gone through either pregnancy loss, stillbirth, or infant loss. And so I lost my son, Josh, almost 13 years ago when he was about 3 months old. And they decided it was SIDS. He just simply passed away during a nap at daycare. And it was the absolute worst day of my life. But part of what drives me to do my work with moms is helping them, if they've experienced grief and loss, helping them navigate that, because it's very nuanced, as well as give them hope that they will find joy again, and they will heal. You never forget, but you can heal. So that's a little bit about me.
Nice. It's going to be a tough one. Tough topic.
I don't think it's really talked about enough.
At all. All right. Donna, I know you had your experiences.
I have also experienced that. I'm Beth's mother. Lex passed away 32 years ago. He was 6 weeks old, and they also said it was SIDS. It is definitely something that's not talked about enough. There's so many mothers that are not aware of SIDS. And it is absolutely devastating. It is something you never, ever forget. But yes, in time, you can heal from it. But it is definitely something that you will need help with. You need to reach out to someone. You need to reach out and get help, because there is nothing else like it. In my experience, I've lost my parents. I've lost aunts, uncles, grandparents, but nothing compares to the loss of your child.
Exactly. Yeah, I lost my father 2 years after we lost Josh, and I remember telling someone, of course, it was awful and miss my dad, but it was like a walk in the park compared to losing your own child. So, yeah.
For our listeners out there that are not familiar with what SIDS is, can you give us like a brief explanation?
Sure. It's sudden infant death syndrome, and so they don't really know why it happens, and I don't know all the statistics, but I know your babies are slightly more at risk between 2 and 4 months old, and it's basically they just stop breathing in their sleep. I think there's been some more recent research. Again, I haven't brushed up on this, but I think they have noted some sort of genetic abnormality in some research that's being done. So there is some hope that maybe there will be eventually a test for babies, some sort of screening. But Josh, he was perfectly healthy. He was my fourth child, and he, you know, I was back to work for a week, and he just was put down. He went to an in-home daycare for a lady who has a license and has been doing it for years.
Yeah.
And she went to check on him, and he was gone. And so that's, you know, they always say that the call you never want to get, and yeah, it was awful. And having to navigate it with having 3 living children who were at the time 2.5, 5, and 7, and 7.5. And so, you know, even as a mental health professional, you know, going through that shock and grief and trauma, while still having to parent my own children and console my husband, that was really challenging. So it's, and it's interesting because, you know, the kids have grieved as they've developed too. Like it kind of hits them as they've grown up. You know, my daughter, who's now 15, she was 2 and she doesn't remember him, but like that grief will hit her at random times when it's like, oh my gosh, wait, my brother's gone, you know? So it's definitely challenging, I think, and stop me if I'm babbling.
You're fine.
I tend to babble.
No, it's okay.
No.
It's the whole point of this.
Yeah. So where was I? I lost my train of thought. I think what helped us, especially initially, was obviously the support of family and friends. You also find out certain things of, you know, how uncomfortable people are talking about the loss of a child. They don't know what to say. They're petrified to bring it up, thinking that they're going to cause you to cry. And, you know, newsflash, like we're always thinking about our babies. Bringing up their name actually helps us in our healing because it's, you know, it's a reminder that they mattered. And that, you know, a lot of people focus on the mom. And I encourage people to remember the dads. Dads have to be, you know, they historically, men like to be the strong ones, and they have their own emotions, and they're worried about their partner and their kids. So it's really important that the men get support and have someone to talk to as well.
Of course.
Anyway, stop there. I could go on forever. I don't know what your experience was.
It was pretty much the same. I mean, people didn't know what to say or how to react, you know, when they found out what happened. I mean, my family was devastated, of course, and, you know, his father, my ex-husband, found him that morning. You know, we went to bed. It was just a normal night. We went to bed, and he woke up that morning, and he found him. And there's certain parts I don't remember, like it's been blocked, which is a blessing, I'm sure, because who wants to remember all of that? Right. I mean, I remember every day before that with him. You know, the 6 weeks that I had him, I remember every day. But the day that it happened, there are parts that my brain has just blocked it out. You know, I remember certain things, and I mean, there's a lot I don't remember, and I'm thankful I don't remember because it was just
Traumatic.
such a traumatic day.
Yes.
Such a traumatic day.
Yeah.
And it still is. Right now,
Yeah.
it still is.
Yeah.
So it's a hard thing to go through.
Well, your body remembers it too,
Everything,
you know.
everything.
Just,
Yes.
It's hard.
It's hard.
it's like a movie that you can play over and over, and you remember like certain parts, but you do block out.
There's some things you just, which is a blessing. It's a blessing, absolutely, because it's just, you can explain it all day, but unless you have been through that, you just don't understand how traumatic it is and how long this family, this mother and this father have to deal with. We deal with it every day. Every single day we deal with it. And people deal with it in different ways. And I like to talk about my son, and I do. I tell people all the time that, yeah, they'll ask me, how many kids do I have? And I say, well, I have 2 kids, but I had 3. My firstborn, his name was Lex, and I lost him at 6 weeks old to SIDS. And I talk about him because I don't want anyone to forget him.
Right. I'm the same way. I say, they say, how many kids do you have? And I say 5. I said, I have 4 on earth and 1 in heaven. So after Josh, we decided actually to adopt our youngest, because we had talked about adoption for years, but since we could have kids physically, we never pursued it. And after I had Josh, I had my tubes tied, it's TMI, but we thought we were done. And then when we lost him, we felt like our story was not complete.
Right.
And so we actually, and part of our healing and is just like anybody, right? When you have a loss like this, people try to get pregnant again, and
Sure.
you kind of envision what what you want your family to be. And so I actually started pursuing, researching adoption agencies, and then he did not even want to talk to me because they were like, it's too soon. And I said, first of all, adoption process can take years.
Right.
And
Yes.
I'm never going to stop grieving my child. Like, this is not a baby to replace my child. This is, we want to expand our family. And so, it's interesting how people don't understand you can do both.
Yeah.
And it was not a knee-jerk reaction. It was something we had talked about ad nauseum. But anyway, to your point, when people say, how many kids do you have? I say 5, and their eyes get big because 5 kids. Who has 5 kids? and I say I have 4 on earth and 1 in heaven, and we lost our son. And then their eyes usually glaze over,
Yes.
and they get really uncomfortable. And but you want to kind of normalize it that he's still part of my family. We have his picture up in our kitchen. We talk about him at dinner every night, and ask him to watch over us, and because I think not doing that is a dishonor to him and his life.
Sure.
So,
Sure. There's pictures up in our house. Our Christmas ornaments, we have the Christmas ornaments with the name and the years on them, like throughout different parts of the years. That's like that.
And I have two granddaughters, and my oldest granddaughter, she's 8, and she'll say, she'll say, who is that baby? Gigi, and I'll say, that's Lex, that's your uncle. He's in heaven. And she understands, and she's like, oh, that's Daddy's brother. And I'm like, yeah, that's Daddy and Auntie's brother, and he's in heaven now. So, and we've talked about it. I've talked to her about it, and she understands, but even she gets saddened by it, and she's 8, so
yeah.
But I tell her, he's good. He's with Jesus. He's good.
Yeah. Yep. He's having a blast.
Yeah.
Just and that brings me comfort, and that's part of how I've coped, is leaning on faith that we will see him again.
Right.
Sure. Yeah.
And not everybody has that. It always kind of hurts my heart when people, whether it's clients or people, I just meet out in the world where they've had a loss and they won't say the baby's name, they won't acknowledge it. And I would encourage, anybody listening that say the name, talk about it, honor them. There's so many ways you can do that, and that really helps you feel connected, as well as helping you navigate the grief. Allow yourself to cry when you hear that song or whatever that hits you a certain way, or look for signs too. I don't know if you've ever had signs that he's around, but I know Josh gives us signs a lot. It's just a feeling, and certain family moments, like we'll have a rainbow appear or butterflies. Will fly away, fly around. So it's
comforting.
It's comforting, yes.
Right. It's comforting.
I still want him selfishly here, of course, but
Of course.
We're
We're his mother.
right. But it is comforting knowing he's around somewhere.
And I find some comfort too. I mean, that I don't have to ever worry about him suffering, heartbreak, or, physical suffering, anything. I don't have to worry about that with him. But at the same time, I didn't get to see him graduate or get married or have children. It's kind of a battle between it. But I do have comfort knowing that he's safe.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
And that he's been taken care of, and that I will see him again one day.
You brought up something that's challenging is the milestones,
Mhm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
When they should be going to kindergarten, when they should be graduating high school. And I have a nephew who's 7 weeks difference in age. And so seeing him, even our neighbors, they're around the same age, and little boys outside playing. And, that's where it can hit you, because, I should be watching him do that. And, that can be really challenging.
I can kind of picture and imagine him doing that in heaven.
Mm-hmm.
Like that helps.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, you see those kids playing outside, but you're like, instead of looking at it as, okay, you wish he was here, you can just imagine that he's doing the same thing in heaven.
Yeah.
I think that helps.
Yes.
I know when it happened with me, I question, like, did I do something right? Did I do something that caused this? Or there's these women out here that are having babies and they just drop them off and don't care anything about them. But I would have did anything for mine, and it's gone. But in my belief in God and everything is that this was his plan. And I shouldn't question it, but you can't help it. You're human. You can't help but question it, right?
Right.
But he knew his future. I didn't, so it could have been even more suffering down the road for him, for me. And so I kind of, just try to work that in when I feel that anger coming up about him being taken away and everything.
Yes.
I try to look at everything about it, because it will literally drive you insane if you don't deal with it.
Right.
If you don't try to work through it and deal with it, just because it's so traumatizing.
Right.
Exactly. But I mean, that was my experience with it.
Yeah. There was definitely, and there still is anger, right? That I think I'm a good person. Like, why us? Why do my kids have to, have that pain of losing their sibling?
Right.
And why did, we have to go through this when there are people that don't care about their kids or use drugs during pregnancy? And, we didn't smoke. We, are healthy. We had no risk factors for SIDS.
Right. Sure.
And it still happened. And that's what I think a lot of people struggle with, myself included, that, okay, so bad stuff happens. What's next? And, of course, I'm petrified of something happening with my other children.
Mm-hmm.
And even, going, whether someone's trying to get pregnant again or going through adoption, there's so much you don't have control over.
Right.
That anxiety can paralyze you. So it's really important to acknowledge it. But what has helped me over time is really just letting go, that I am not in control. My kids are out driving now. Some of them, things can happen. I just have to have some faith that this is not, they're not going to be taken away from me. But I know it's a possibility.
Right.
I mean, we don't know what tomorrow's going to bring. So today it has definitely helped. If there is a silver lining for me, is it's helped me live my life more authentically. I used to be very type A, wound up, tight, and worrying about what other people thought. And I'm like, now it's like, what do you got to lose? I already lived through the worst thing ever. So, you know,
Valid point.
if there's bad stuff happening, you know, I don't sweat the small stuff like I used to.
I know Bethany, I had Bethany next, and me and my doctor talked about it. And, you know, he's like, you know, we can put a monitor, wear a monitor at night, you know, and if anything happens, you'll get an alarm. So I was like, okay, you know, I'll try that. Right. So first couple of nights, every time she moved, it would go off. Right. And I thought, this is just no way to live. This is terrifying. So I just finally took it off her, and I was like, Lord, you know, if you're going to take her, there is nothing I can do. But, you know, I know that you'll have me, you know, and I'm just going to trust in you, and whatever's going to happen is going to happen. And because I was going crazy. I mean, so I took the monitor back to the doctor's office, and I was like, look, you can just have it, you know. And he said, you know, it doesn't work for everybody. Some people, you know, they find comfort in it, right?
Right.
I said, well, it's just
feed your anxiety, right?
I just couldn't do it anymore. And you know, I just decided to put it in the Lord's hands and let him decide and take care of it. You know, I didn't have any control over it. I wanted to, but I didn't. So I had to let it go. And and I don't sweat the small stuff, and I don't care what people think, or I don't.
Right. Yeah. And it's very freeing in a way.
It's very freeing.
But a lot of moms struggle, you know, after whether it's a miscarriage or stillbirth, you know, subsequent pregnancies. You know, it's scary, and you know, if they are blaming themselves in any way, that can be really traumatic. And so it's recognizing like there is only so much you can do, and sometimes, you know, bad stuff happens. And you know, if they get pregnant after a loss, like, you focus on what you can control, eating well, going to the doctor, and then, you know, that's all you can do. Because it can really trigger that anxiety.
My experience was with miscarriages. I had a couple back to back. I mean, the first time it happened, I was like, okay, like maybe it's just not meant to be. But then the second time that it happened, I was like, okay, maybe there's something wrong with me. So then went to the doctor, they took tests, everything came out fine, like nothing was wrong. So, but there's no explanation to why it happened. So it's like kind of put you in this space like, okay, maybe there is something wrong with me. They just don't know where to look or what's causing it, you know, and it's hard. I mean, I can't relate to, you know, having a baby and then it dies like right there, like that I cannot relate to. But like in a miscarriage perspective, like it's like I didn't meet the child, so it's like it's a different form of grief. I guess
It's still hard though.
but it's very hard because especially when there's no explanation to it, like you're at a loss at that point. Like, okay, what am I doing wrong? Or is this my fault? Am I such a bad person that you had to take the child away from me? I mean, I've heard that saying, like, bad things happen to good people, but they don't just happen just because, you know. You know, it could have been, you know, whether it was your son or your son, you know, the reason why that happened to them, it's because maybe God saw that their life down the road would be probably very difficult and maybe saved your child from that, you know. So I can understand like both.
I mean, it's a blessing that we can't see the future. Right. I mean,
because we'd be in trouble.
But
future.
even women that have miscarriages should get therapy for it, because that's still a child.
It's still a child.
At one time you thought, okay, this is going to be my child, and they're going to grow up and be healthy and happy, and then they're gone. Right. So you still need to get therapy for that. That's still your child. You know, from the time that you found out you had a baby inside of you, it's still your baby.
You start the planning and everything,
Well,
and then
it's a grief that's not seen, right?
Right.
Because in our case, we had our baby, people saw our babies and then they were gone. And so with miscarriage, it's disenfranchised grief. So like it's invisible and it's hard for, there is a level of shame sometimes, like, what did I do wrong?
Yeah.
Why are all my friends getting pregnant and able to carry their babies and I can't? But it's also invisible, right? There's no like, there's nothing, you don't have pictures, and so that kind of a grief can be even harder in some ways because it's like this secret, and that's part of what I do is encourage people to talk about it. Talk. Like your pregnancy, that was your vision for your future.
Right.
And that has changed, and it's okay to be sad about that.
Mhm.
I also, someone said to me once early on, the things people say is like, well, at least you have other living, other healthy kids. And I'm like, no,
That does not take away.
doesn't take away
right.
the
Like I could have
loss.
25 kids, but I still
Exactly.
want him. I want
Yeah.
Josh.
Yeah.
And I still love my other children, but that doesn't make up for losing him. And so, when people say that to people who've had miscarriages, well, you went on to have healthy pregnancies, but you still had that loss, and it's okay to acknowledge that, and it's okay to be sad about that.
I mean, me and my mom, when I was telling her I met you, and we were talking about doing the episode, right? That we were talking about, like, would it be harder to have your child and have them grow up some, right? Because I know there's like, there's SIDS, and then there's also, I think it's sudden something child.
Unexpected death of a
child. Yes. So there is like an age where a child is also still susceptible kind of to what SIDS is. And I had a friend who had a loss, and I believe her child was around 6 or 7, I would say, if I remember correctly. But we were talking about, does it make it harder if you see your child to that age versus, having them as an infant and not really being, experiencing those memories, that time with them? And it's like, I can't tell you.
Yeah.
Some people may feel like they were lucky to have their kids
Sure.
for 6 years, right?
Sure.
Right.
Somebody for me would be like, oh my God, you know how lucky you were to have them for that 6 years. You got to see them for 6 years, right?
Right.
And then they might feel like, oh my God, you know how lucky you were. You didn't have to see them for that and then lose them like that. You know, it
Like people find
it's-
comfort
it's not
or things in
right,
different ways.
right. They try to rationalize it, and
Yeah.
to suit them, and that's okay. That's okay. You have to do what you have to do to try to deal with it in your own way, but it's just hard. It's a
just
hard
It's
thing
all hard.
to go
Yeah.
through.
I think
It's-
both situations are hard.
Absolutely, they are.
Regardless. Whether it's 3 months or 7 years or even 10 years, it doesn't matter. It's still hard. It's still a loss
It's
of
still a
human
loss.
being.
It's right.
It's a person that you grew inside your body. It's a big loss, like
Yes.
regardless of, okay, you're lucky, but really think about it, like, okay, yeah, I'm lucky I saw my child for 7 years and now they're gone, but those memories that you have for those 7 years sticks,
Yeah.
and then later on you can be doing something and you would feel that child with you because you're doing the stuff that you used to do with them when they were alive.
Right.
So it's like regardless, even at 3 months, you're breastfeeding, you're going through these emotions and situations with that child for those 3 months. Those are still in your memories. You can be sitting down on a rocking chair in their room or something, or in their nursery, and you just zone out, and it's because you're remembering those moments, those small moments that you had with that child. So I don't think it should like honestly, like, it doesn't matter how many years you had with this child, regardless, it's still there. Like, you still feel that. So
Yeah.
I don't think that should even be a question, like, as far as like what the difference is.
Right,
Like,
yeah,
I don't
it's
see
not
a
a competition,
difference.
it's
Like,
just
it's not
all-
a competition.
right.
It's
It doesn't, but I think that's one of the things that crosses your mind.
Yeah.
You know, when you think about it, when you talk about it, like the experiences people have been through. You know, and like the one thing, like you mentioned, like there is like the research coming out and possibly, you know, there's a genetic factor. Well, I mean, sure, it crosses my mind. Like if I have a kid, will it happen to me?
Right. Yes. Yeah.
well, they have that genetic testing now where they test different scenarios or different like defects and things like that nowadays, that they have that where they can test for things like that. You know,
Yeah.
I don't,
Yeah. I used to lead a support group for parents who've lost children, several years after I lost Josh, when I was ready to
Do the
to
things.
do the things.
Yeah.
And I remember being kind of jealous because many of them were parents who lost adult children, to cancer, or their kids were in their 20s or 30s, and the pain, the core of the pain is the same. The losing a child. But I remember like kind of being jealous because I was like, wow, you got 27 years with yours, and I got 3 months, and you got to see what kind of person they were. And mine was just a baby, and I like to think of what he would be like, but I don't really know. And whereas they would, some were jealous of me that like it, I didn't have all these memories, and didn't have that length of time that for that bond to grow.
Mhm.
So it's just so weird and
yeah.
nuanced.
Sorry guys, I know this is a tough episode, but we wanted to bring awareness of SIDS, miscarriages, loss in general when it comes to a child. Like, I think it's a topic that is just not talked about enough. And like we said earlier, and we just wanted to bring y'all awareness. So if you have any questions, comments, even need some support system or support on this, please comment.
Well, and also too, like, I mean, obviously this is a big passion of yours and helping parents, and obviously it sounds like, having a big group practice. How can people get in touch with you if, they're looking for someone who's had this experience?
Sure. So all of since I can't see everybody myself, I'm one person, but
Sure.
all of the providers in our practice have advanced perinatal certification or training. So they are very familiar with grief and loss. We see it a lot. And so if someone is needing some extra support, which again, anytime you've lost a child, whether it is miscarriage, stillbirth, infant loss, child loss, that is not only grief, but it's also trauma. And so, anytime there's trauma, it's really important to talk to someone, because if you don't deal with it, it comes around later, through substance use, through anger, through divorce, all sorts of negative ways. So it's really important you get in and the therapist is there to help guide you, to help be a safe space, to help hold you and witness your grief, and just to be that person that can kind of help you process all the many things. So if someone it does need some extra support, they can reach out to my website, which is waypointcounselingnc.com. There's an inquiry form on there. We do our best to match people to the right provider. Outside of North Carolina, Postpartum Support International has some free online resources and support groups. So there is support out there. My email address is kelly@waypointcounselingnc.com. That's another way. I'm happy to help guide people if they need it.
There's a lot of good resources.
Yeah, definitely check them out, guys. Don't suffer in silence. You know, if you need to talk to somebody, just please talk to somebody. It's not healthy to just, you know, brush it off or, you know, say that you're over it, but you're really not. You know, it could hurt you down the line. So we do encourage you to reach out for help if you can.
Absolutely. Well, that is the end of our episode today, guys. Stay tuned for more. We'll see you the next time on the Fill and Spill podcast.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Oh yeah, fill it up, spill it out. Oh yeah, fill it up, spill it out. Oh yeah, fill it up, spill it out. 'Cause OG and Beth know it's about. Da 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 da. Fill it. Welcome to the Fill and Spill. We laugh to laugh. We fill your plate and spill the tea and spill the tea. Pull up a chair, unwind, want your family here every time. This the Fill and Spill. Oh yeah, fill it up, spill it.